Welcome back to Hatraid Live, the Hatraid Hour podcast. I am your host, Jordan Andrew, Hatraid, aka Hatraid. So we've got some really nice guests to talk to today. We've got VIP Home Theaters and we've got Trinnov that we're going to be talking to. But before we get started, just a few friendly reminders. Let's have fun, let's be kind to one another, and let's keep it G-rated. All right, well, without further ado, let's get the crew on here. So, as I said, we've got Trinnov. Here we've got Chuck back. What's going on, Chuck?
And welcome. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We got Dave at Pettigo. Is that how I say it?
You got it 100% correct, and no one ever does, so thank you.
Nice. All right, I'm the first. And then we got Tom Adamczyk from VIP Home Theaters. What's going on, Tom?
Hi, how are you? Really good. Thank you for having me here. It was really nice having you at our place just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, no, I can't believe it. That was October, I think, at the end of October. So
time flies.
I know, man. It's going to be January. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started by doing some introductions. Chuck, do you want to go first and maybe tell everybody about who you are and what you do at Trinnov, and then we'll go to Dave, and then we'll hit up Tom.
Yeah, I'm one of the co-managing directors of Trinnov Audio in the U.S. Trinnov Audio in the U.S. is a wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company in France. And primarily I'm involved in sales, which for Trinnov is ordinary kind of sales activity, but it's also a lot of system design and consulting and assistance with design of theaters and calibration of theaters. So it's more of a technical sales role, and that's my primary activity with Trinnov.
All right, Dave.
So I am the Chief Operating Officer for Trinnov, but I really kind of have two roles. One role is to just kind of herd the cats a little bit, make sure everything runs smoothly. And then the other is to oversee our training and certification program. So I do a lot of training, do a lot of the certification, and then at times also do, as Chuck is talking about, which is technical support. So helping people get their systems calibrated or to figure out where to put speakers, those kind of things.
Nice. Tom?
Yes, hi, I'm Tom Adamczyk, and I am a founder of VIP Home Theaters. We are the company that designs and makes home theaters from scratch. We specialize in high-end home theaters with acoustics. We do pretty much everything from scratch.
All right. Yeah. So for those of you that are watching, in October, I went to Chicago and did some home theater tours, some JTR home theater tours. And then I got in touch with Monica, which is Tom's daughter, and got a chance to visit the VIP showroom right before you guys opened, I believe, like about a month, I think, before you guys opened. And, absolutely, I did a video on it. A lot of people like the video. I mean, just an absolutely beautiful showroom. So this is when you walk in, this is a little bit how it looks. But the actual focus was on the theater, which is amazing. So, Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about your showroom that you have there? What kind of stuff you got in there, and then we'll talk to Trinnov and the collaboration there.
Absolutely. So I've been building home theaters for quite some time, since 1999. So it's been a while, and I have built several theaters at different levels. And finally, when my daughter Monica became available, and she said that she could help me out with getting my new business running, I decided just to go full ahead and create something that, to my knowledge, wasn't done before in this country. So this is a full-scale home theater for 20 people with a very large screen. It's a 21-foot wide screen with Trinnov audio. I have a 32 channels of amplification, all of the speakers were designed and made by us. So we have a full range of speakers that are pretty much audiophile grade. We have a lot of subwoofers. The total power of the system is close to 60,000 watts. And the theater was designed with pretty much like cost no object value. So we were trying to achieve something that is not easy to achieve. We spent a lot of time on acoustics of the room and tried creating something that, you know, is pretty much an ultimate theater. And to my knowledge, we kind of got this thing done. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to do it without Trinnov. The sound processing of Trinnov is simply unmatched. This is something that it's really hard to describe. If someone hasn't experienced it, I highly recommend everyone to just experience it, because it's something really, really difficult to believe.
Definitely. And I believe you have the 32 channel version, correct?
Yes, I have a 32 channel, and we employ each and every channel. I know that there are 4 additional channels available if we employ additional digital analog converters, but in my case, it was just not necessary. We have 9.13.10 system, so we employ all 32 channels.
Awesome. So let me pull up my notes here. So how did you guys get connected? VIP Home Theaters, Tom, Monica, and Trinnov. How did you guys meet?
We met at CDI. I believe it was 2023 CDI. Trinnov was just coming out with a waveforming. This was very impressive demonstration, and simply it clicked. I knew I want to implement it, and we just did. So this was something that, I mean, the showroom at CDI was very, very impressive, and I tried to build on it, and I just built much larger showroom. The one at CDI was compact for obvious reasons. It needed to be portable, but it was very impressive.
And that was an 18-seat theater that we had.
It was
2023, and
Okay,
that's
so
when I
last year.
first met Tom. When he came and told us how impressed he was with the demonstration, and then he shared with me these extremely ambitious plans. He's going to be building this very advanced theater from scratch, and I mean literally from scratch in terms of the ground up and doing the design work, a very high level design, both in terms of aesthetic quality, but also in terms of the acoustics. So it was kind of a dream project from our standpoint, because we want people to have the Trinnov experience of immersive audio in the best possible acoustical environment. It's not just a matter of putting a processor in any room to get the ultimate sound. You really have to combine a proper, well-executed acoustical design with the optimizer to get the best possible results.
Yeah, and I can attest. I mean, it sounded pretty incredible in there, with all the speakers that you have. I mean, you don't see anything. You don't see any speakers anywhere, so that kind of adds to the immersion. You don't have to say, oh, that's the left channel over there. That's coming from there, but everything was just very well integrated, very smooth, deep bass. And one thing I'm super jealous about when I see these showrooms is the height. And if you have, I mean, I've been to a bunch of home theaters, and the theaters and showrooms that have 10-foot higher ceilings, you can't replicate that immersive, expansive bubble that you get with such high ceilings. It's something that you have to hear. And then when you have a processor like Trinnov that can do all kinds of stuff, 3D remapping, spatial remapping, all this stuff. I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, for sure. It's, Tom, I think the ceiling height is 14 feet approximately.
Yeah, I have started with 14 feet. I have lost a few inches for acoustical treatments. The ceiling is treated, so I lost like 4 inches, but it's still 13.8. It's pretty high.
Yeah, but I would say for sure that the height was the first thing that I noticed, and it was mind-blowing. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of other things I noticed for sure. I've been to many theaters around the world, and this was the most like hit you in the face. Wow, wow, oh my God, this is just absolutely stunning. So the ceiling height, if you have the room for it, makes a lot of difference just in the sense of openness for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We got a
Thank
couple
you,
people
Dave.
in the chat. We got Joey Peacock from Mad VR Labs. What's going on, Joey? He says, "Hey, gentlemen, Jordan, Dave, Chuck, and Tom. I'm watching on LinkedIn, but have to chat here. Appreciate you tuning in, Joey."
Oh, well, Joey's the best.
Yeah, he's great.
He's one of the good guys for sure. But he owes me
Indeed.
for saving his back at studio. So.
That sounds like a story that we're going to have to dive into at some point.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we talk about Trinnov Support then? You know, you talked about how, Dave, you've actually been to the showroom. How did Trinnov support in setting up the equipment? You know, the calibration, especially because you're doing waveforming in there too,
Sure.
correct?
Sure. And so actually, Tom went ahead and did the initial setup and calibration. So I came out there on my way out to Connecticut just a couple weeks ago. For some reason, I got it in my mind that it'd be a good idea to drive from Indianapolis to Chicago to
Oh, man.
Connecticut. So I
How
stopped
many
by
hours
there,
is that?
and it was already sounding pretty good. But one of the things that he was unsure about was how to implement a infrasonic subwoofer, because he's designed his own infrasonic subs, and get that into the system. So actually, just remotely last week, while both of us were fighting a cold, we went through, got the infrasonic implemented, and we'll wind up going back there and actually doing a final fine tuning soon enough. Just got a little bit close to the holidays.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Actually, your help was really tremendous. I would never do it without you. So it's incredible how you can kind of join in and simply connect to the Trinnov processor and do your magic. So this, I would never do it without you. So thank you very much for it. And the improvement is huge. It's simply difficult to comprehend, even though, as you mentioned, it sounded good from the beginning, but now it's even better. So that's something I really love about Trinnovs, that you have something that already sounds fantastic and you can still improve on that. And in most cases, it's impossible. It's simply, if you have something that sounds good, in most cases, this is the best that there is. But with Trinnov, with every update and with every little tweak, you can squeeze out even more performance.
And to take some of the history further back, we worked with Tom on the design of the subwoofer configuration for waveforming. Because optimal waveforming calls for very specific placement of the subwoofers in the front walls and the back wall. They need to be specific distances from the nearest wall surface and from each other. And in many cases, because of budgets and space, we're limited in the number of subs that can be put into a particular system. But in Tom's case, that was not a limitation. He was able to go for the optimal. And I haven't had a chance to experience the theater yet, but it certainly sounds like he's achieving that with the level of bass performance that's being reported.
Yeah, it was great.
So, and we have on our website tools that anyone can access that will show the optimal placement, and there's quite thorough guide there to help users to understand what's necessary for waveforming, and tools that show users how to get there.
So is that tool scalable? Like, let's say you're looking at the recommendations and maybe your room size or your room configurations is a little bit wonky. Can you still do it? Is there workarounds, or is there like, hey, your room needs to be, X, Y, Z?
Yeah,
So we have the you put in the dimensions of the length and the width and the height of the front wall, because that's really what's going to determine the amount of emitters, which are going to be on the front, and the absorbers that are in the back. The tool, as it stands today, is such that it is for what we call planar waveforming, which is the highest level performance. And then if you can't put that many subwoofers in, then we will walk you through what to do. And then you can wind up with what we call cylindrical waveforming, which is not going to be quite as good in the vertical plane as it is with planar, but still in the horizontal plane. And so the tool is there, scalable. You put in the length or the width and height of the ceiling, and that'll determine your speaker placement.
Okay. So, Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about these, the system that you got here, the speakers that we see here, and then that massive, that sub that you're employing, you know, in the theater.
Yes. So as I mentioned, the theater showroom has 9 speakers at the listening levels. 6 of them are, as you can see, next to that large subwoofer, and 3 behind the screen are line arrays. I don't have them anywhere pictured, but I can obviously provide that picture at request. So we have created a very large line array speakers. They're almost 7 feet tall, for the reason that the theater is very, very long. So we had to take this into account, that the loss will be substantial, and we had to create something much more powerful. We have 12 18-inch subs that are configured in the line, like the waveforming array. 8 of them are behind the screen, and 4 of them are in the back. And as Chuck mentioned, he has helped me with positioning of these, and the position is very, very precisely, pretty much, I mean, they are precisely placed on the wall within a certain distances, and that's what's the main array. And the large sub is a subsonic, very, very powerful 20,000 watt subwoofer that is capable of just crazy output, like 160 dBs. I'm using a fraction of its power, so most of the time I don't exceed 5% of its nominal power in this room, even though room is quite large. It simply is overwhelming, and it's too powerful for even for room like this.
And then you've got that speaker on the top. That is your height speakers, right? Your Atmos
Yes.
height speaker.
Yes, we have designed few different ones, and I am a big fan of planar drivers. Unfortunately, planners have a limitation that it's very difficult to kind of go around, especially with ceiling speakers. They're limited vertical dispersion. The horizontal dispersion is very, very wide, but the vertical one is pretty much non-existent. It's like 5 degrees. So what we have done, we have experimented with a coaxial drivers, and we have created very nice crossover, and they perform very, very nicely. And also what's incredibly important is that they pretty much cover 105 degrees all the way around. So they are pretty much covering the whole space. They are also angled, so I haven't mounted them directly in the ceiling. We have created like a sloped baffle in the top of the ceiling, where these are mounted. So they are mounted at an angle to cover pretty much each and every seat.
Okay.
And there's 10 of them.
Okay. So tell me about, because in the video you mentioned that the room was designed with the golden ratio in mind. Why don't you tell everybody, like, what is that? For those that don't know, what is the golden ratio, and why did you decide to use the golden ratio to build out the theater?
Yes, so I will start with kind of common misconception that the dimensions of the room are not critical, and a lot of people simply have space designed by the architects or designers, and they are what they are, and people don't pay attention to those critical things. So dimensions will dictate the acoustics pretty much, and if you can at least avoid those known ratios that are known to be creating issues, you will be so much better off. And to my knowledge, the best ratio is the golden ratio. It is 1.62. So the height to width and to the length of the room should be within that 1.62 ratio. And by doing that, you're eliminating those known common issues with standing waves, with acoustical problems. And then, after everything is done and the room is treated, you can get help from, obviously, Trinnov's wonderful software. However, don't get me wrong, the software is incredible, but if the room is constructed in the bad way and the acoustics are screwed up, there's really nothing you can do. You can improve it slightly, but it will never sound as good as it should. So, in my opinion, the beginning is to design the room the way it should be done and then correct it afterwards, and not the other way around.
And that's Trinnov's position as well. Now we realize not everyone's going to be able to do the golden ratio. There's always constraints, and when it comes to home theater design, it always comes down to compromises, no matter what you do. So we're there to make those corrections. But if you can avoid issues in the first place, we encourage you to do that.
Yeah, and speaking on that, like you were saying, even if you aren't able to do the golden ratio, or maybe your room is a little bit wonky in some areas, the Trinnov can do some pretty impressive room correction stuff, right?
Oh,
Room
yeah.
mapping and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh.
and with waveforming, we are able to fix things that were not fixable before. In a less than optimal room, waveforming can resolve issues where there are nulls and peaks that would otherwise be very, very difficult to not eliminate, but to reduce their effects. And
Well, and if it's done properly, we can eliminate room modes. I'll give you an example. So in Connecticut, we have a room mode, a pretty severe room mode in our room, which we didn't do the golden ratio, but we used prime numbers. I think it was 17 by 21 by 11. And we still had a pretty severe 50 hertz room mode. And so when we were measuring, we had Arno Lavery, the CEO, out, and we were doing testing, and we were able to get about 30 dB of variance between the point of highest pressure and lowest pressure, which is roughly so 8 times louder than in normal circumstances. And by implementing waveforming, we were able to take it down to plus or minus 1 dB everywhere in the room.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. We have a question here from Home Theater Denmark who says, "Sorry for my question, but does anyone in Denmark do waveforming?" So I'm not sure if you're asking just in general, or if he's asking if there's someone in Denmark like Trinnov that can.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, Chuck, I'm talking a lot. My apologies. I'll let you go after this. So our colleague David Marowitz over in the UK is the one that handles most of the dealers and helps them out if they want to implement waveforming. And I know for a fact that multiple waveforming jobs have been done in Denmark. And so very possible, no problems at all. And if you need to find a dealer, we can get you in touch with David, and he'll put you in touch with the dealer.
Great. So I guess another question for you, Dave. So let's go back to your in-person visit a little bit. So when you show up in person, and I know you guys can do a lot of stuff. You can actually remote in and completely, help somebody calibrate their system. But when you show up to a showroom like VIP Home Theaters, another showroom, what's the process to getting that room in in shape for demos or in especially for a showroom where people are going to be coming to check this out to see if they want this? What's your process?
Well, I'll let Chuck answer this one because
Okay.
I've done most of the talking, and our processes are similar. So, but Chuck's also the more seasoned guy, so I'd love to hear his answer.
Have at it, Chuck.
Yeah, one of the great things about the altitude and the optimizer is that it's a very powerful diagnostic tool. So it is, on the one hand, a device that you can very simply use by setting up a microphone and taking a measurement. But it also provides an experienced calibrator a lot of information and great depth of tools that can be used to improve the sound. So what I'll do is first take a look at the measurements. The basic measurement for frequency response for the amplitude of the system is going to show a before measurement, which is the actual state of the room that the microphone captures. It will show an after, which is the predicted result after the optimizer corrections are applied. And then there's a filter, which depicts the actual acoustical filter that is being applied to make the correction. And those will tell me what's going on with the room, what's good, what's not good, what's a severe problem, and how aggressively the system of the optimizer is working to fix the problem. Then I will listen, and based on experience and listening to familiar program material, I'll get a sense of how well the corrections are being applied and how the system is being tuned through what we use for basic system tuning is called the target curve. And the target curve shapes the frequency response of the system and can be used to fine tune and to overall tune the system. You can have a very bright forward sounding system. You can have a more recessed laid back system. And because we have 29 presets, multiple target curves can be used. For example, one might want a target curve for music that is shaped in one way, and for movies, one that's a little more aggressive and maybe has an exaggerated bass in comparison. The altitude allows you to create various playback scenarios. So what I'm going to do is use the tools that are available based on the objective and subjective experience that I have, and then make those adjustments, listen, continue to adjust, listen. I'm going to work in cooperation with either the client that owns the system or the dealer whose showroom we're working in to achieve what they're looking for. And with that process, we'll end up getting a very well-tuned response that takes that last level of performance to the highest achievable.
Okay. So it sounds like obviously the ideal way to calibrate a system is in person. So how does it differ from, let's say, if you're not able to make it in person, you have the ability to remote into somebody's system. How does that work?
We have the ability to connect to any machine that's connected to the internet. We'll get back to our server in Paris, and then Dave and I and John Herron and our support team can connect to that machine remotely. We have full control over the machine at that point. So we can do everything that would be appropriate for a calibration other than move the microphone and actually hear what the system sounds like. Because we've done hundreds of these, we have a very good sense of where the results are by looking at the graphs. We don't have the ultimate ear test, obviously, but we can achieve a very good result by working with the client, talking about what that client is looking for. A very strong indicator will be the loudspeakers that are used, because loudspeakers all have a particular characteristic. And that characteristic is probably known to us from our experience doing calibrations, but it's also apparent because you can see the response of the speaker in the room, and the response of one brand of speaker is going to be very different than the response of another brand of speaker, and that identifies the character that the designer put into it. So I'll very often use that before graph and my knowledge of what that speaker sounds like to create a target curve that will match what the client was looking for when they made the decision to buy that speaker in the first place.
Cool. It's a very, very powerful system. Is there any one line of speaker where you could say, hey, we know that this, if someone came to you and was like, hey, I want to get a Trinnov, I just bought a Trinnov, I don't know what speaker to get. Is there a certain speaker brand that I know, not to like play favorites or anything, is there a certain speaker brand
No,
that you've heard?
the answer is no, though. I mean, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It's very hard. Many people have opinions on speakers.
Right.
Like, I don't think there's anything more opinionated than that. But there's a lot of things that go into a speaker. So the distance from the speaker determines how loud do I want to get to for my reference level? Well, the distance from the speaker is going to determine that. Well, then the power handling capability is going to determine, how much amplification I can have. So then I have to determine whether it's going to be this sensitivity speaker or this sensitivity speaker. And some of it is what the preference of the customer is. What kind of speakers do they like? And then it goes into way more than that if we want to get into the spinorama data and those kind of things. But the answer ultimately is no. There is no one speaker that is better than another. There's no one subwoofer that's better for waveforming than another. It all depends on the conditions and the parameter of the room, of the system design, and then ultimately the preference of the customer. I would say I wish there was one, but I wouldn't, because then you're kind of squeezing the market, and we don't want to do that either. But I know there are plenty of speaker manufacturers out there that would love to say that they are the preferred speaker manufacturer for Trinnov.
What I always say is the optimizer will make any good speaker perform at its best.
Okay.
And I must say that this is absolutely true. I knew how good the Trinnov optimizing is, but honestly, after everything is done, it's absolutely shocking. It's something that a lot of people have no idea how well this thing works. It does magic, and that's how I kind of say it.
Well, and one thing I would add to that, only not to correct you, Tom, but there is a lot of products in our industry that people will claim are magic in because like speaker cables or whatever. And this is not magic. We are a research company first, an acoustics research company first and foremost. Over half of our company is in the research and development field. All of the owners, there's 3 owners, they all have masters or above in engineering. We are an engineering firm with plenty of PhDs in mathematics, and everything that we can do can be mathematically proven. And I know it sounds semantic, and I know that, Tom, you are complimenting us by saying it's magic, but it's not. It's math. It is so. And I will tell you,
to me it was magic. So, yes.
The first week I was at Trinnov, I'm looking at some of the presentations, and there was a math problem, and I literally got a migraine from it. And then Arno was like, "Oh, that's one of our PhDs in math just trying to show off." And I'm like,
"That's
okay, funny. Okay, I don't need to know this." But my head hurt worse than it had hurt in a long time.
So what it sounds like is if you don't have a specific speaker preference where you're like, I'm gonna go with this speaker, and even if you do, it sounds like you should do your research, like you said, speaker sensitivity, the distance from the speaker, how far the speakers are going to be from your listening position. You should do your research first and then make an educated decision to say, okay, maybe I like the speaker brand, but if I look at the specs, maybe that's not going to work out so good. Or if I like the speaker brand, let me see what's what can I afford that's maybe a little bit higher quality?
And so I agree. So Big Jack says he says that directivity is a metric that's overlooked, and that is 1,000,000% accurate.
Absolutely.
It's so accurate. And so there's a lot of, if you are a reputable, well-known speaker designer, then those are the things that you're looking at, all of them. And it starts with the distance from the seat to the screen, and that's going to determine the angles and those kind of things. But it's not just someone, if you're reputable, licking your finger, sticking it up and saying, I like this brand. It's really going through and looking at the data, which is why the more reputable speaker manufacturers put out a lot of their speaker data so that you can see how they perform.
Yeah, excellent point. And that's I know that's something a lot of people when they go to a speaker company and they don't publish their findings, they kind of like, I don't know if I want to deal with them, just because I want to know more of the data and the science that goes into it. So good points.
Sorry, I'm speaking so much about this. This is something
ahead.
that's so important to me. The speaker manufacturers, they're getting there. It's very expensive to have your line of speakers measured, and for a long time, it just wasn't something that was really important in the manufacturer's mind. Really, with the CDI RP22 that came out, and now what's called RP1, which is going to be a standard for how you basically measure and the performance facts, the data that comes out with it, the manufacturers are getting on board. So they're getting there, but don't be too harsh on some of these manufacturers yet. In the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively newer principle for them to get on board with. So in the residential world.
And I think this process is going to result in better loudspeakers. It's going to drive more discipline and raise the standards, which is going to be good for all of us.
Yep, good for everybody. Okay, so Tom, what's your roadmap for 2025? What do you I know that you guys are trying to get more plugged into the Chicago market, but maybe some level 1 and level 2 trainings. What does that mean when you say, hey, we're going to be doing level 1, level 2 trainings?
Well, actually, maybe we can talk to Dave. Dave suggested something that kind of resonates with us very, very nicely. Meaning, if he could do his trainings in here, that would be absolutely fantastic. But we do also we have started approaching companies to do the CEU trainings for architects and designers, and so far the response is really good. We are just in the beginning, so we still haven't precisely said what we're gonna be doing in here. However, since the space is quite large and we have a means of having used this space as a venue space, so we are actively looking for pretty much ways how to utilize the space, not only as a showroom for home theaters, but also for some other functions.
Yeah, so for authorized dealers, you have to be an authorized dealer. We offer a level 1 class that is 1 day, and a level 2 class it's a 2-day. That's the level 2 is almost 60% listening, like you make small iteration and you listen, those kind of things. And most of the time I teach a level 1 in my room that is about 10 foot by 10 foot. And so when I saw Tom's, I'm like, my God, please, can I come teach level 1 and level 2 in your facility? Because A, I live in Indianapolis, so it's only a 3-hour drive. And B, it's just a great space. His space that he hasn't really talked about, which is the hi-fi side of things. He's got some hi-fi speakers that sound incredible. And so I was out there. He's got just a really good space for us to be able to teach out there. And we need to do a little bit more in the Chicagoland area. We've done a lot more on the coast when it comes to the level 2. So, I've been talking to Monica and Tom, and, it would be great to help drive some business for him, because it's obvious that it's a massive investment that you have undertaken for that showroom, and you have to start making a return on that investment. And the other thing that Tom said to me is like, look, you can use this. And I want people to know, like, if you're a dealer and you're coming in here, because I also do high-end theaters, I'm not coming after your business at all. In fact, I think, Tom, you said you're happy to sign like an NDA with them or non-compete with them for their clients,
Definitely.
because you're also a manufacturer. So, you go in there, this is as a manufacturing hat, we're a manufacturer. And so other dealers should feel comfortable to be able to come in there and make a relationship with you, because you also are a millwork company. And so for me, I'm a woodworking guy. I love it. And so for me, one of the most impressive things was the flooring that you did and the general millwork around. So I think it's a good place for Midwest guys to go and meet Tom, beyond the, oh, you're a competition, so I don't want to go there. No, you're not really competition. And in fact, you might be able to make a really good long-term relationship.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So yeah, just I'm gonna add to it. So I'm also I own a mill workshop in Old Grove Village, which is pretty much right next to the showroom. I'm been doing this for almost 20 years, so I have a lot of experience in very, very high-end millwork. I also do acoustical treatments, and we specialize in pretty much acoustical treatments for the theaters and for public spaces, for a lot of spaces where you want to feel nice, and basically, and we would like to partner up with integrators in the area, and we just offer our services. So as Dave mentioned, I'm not going after anyone else's clients. It's basically we would like to offer our services to anyone that needs them, and that's all it is.
Awesome, great. So, I guess what type of maybe a little bit off topic of specific home theaters, what other type of applications can you can you guys do stuff like hospitality, luxury living, casinos, ski
Correct. Yes.
villages? Like what else? What's your repertoire?
Well, actually, even right now, we are approached by a company in the area to help with the conference room setup that doesn't work. They have a quite large space, and they have a table for like 20 people. And basically, when they do the teleconference, no one can hear anyone. It's basically a mess. The walls are drywall. There's a lot of glass, and floors are concrete, and basically they are in bad shape in there. So I can obviously offer acoustical treatments for the whole space, and also bring the electronics to help them to achieve what they want to achieve. Basically, a quiet space where they can communicate and they can hear each other and not shout one over another. They just told me like a horror stories that there were like 30 people in the conference room, and basically no one could hear what anyone else was talking. It was a really bad situation, and this was a brand new space. So that only shows how someone designed it and built it, and it basically doesn't work. So this is just one of the examples.
Yeah, acoustics, or making sure that you have some type of acoustic properties in your theater, whether that be diffusers, bass traps, acoustic treatment. A lot of people, surprisingly, don't give attention to acoustic treatment, and then they wonder why. Like, oh, I bought these expensive speakers, but my room sounds horrible. Does somebody want to give a little bit of talk about why that's so important to tackle that first, and then with the Trinnov, you can do all the waveforming stuff. Why is acoustic so important in a room?
I think, Dave, you should address that with your background.
Yeah, I was the CEO of Orlex Acoustics for 3 years, and
Oh, okay.
worked in the just general field. I worked at THX and CDI, and so acoustics has always been an area of strong interest to me. And what I would say more than anything else is that you are, first of all, you're trying not to fight in an environment to be able to communicate. While at Orlex, we did lots of restaurants, conference rooms, those kind of things where you don't want it to be so unpleasant, so difficult to be able to converse. Sound travels at approximately 1,130 feet per second. When I am speaking, my big loud mouth sounds coming out of my mouth. Some of that sound is getting absorbed by the wall. Some of it is bouncing off and reflecting. And overall, in a loud environment, not only is it hard to hear, it is hard for you to get clarity. It's hard to really understand what is being said. So what we're trying to do is to create a environment that is ultimately easy at the highest levels. Right? We're just talking real high level. Very easy to converse in, very easy to hear what is being said. I have hearing loss in both ears, and in very loud, reverberant environments, it's hard for me to actually understand what's saying. And it's nothing more annoying to my wife than me saying, "What did you say?" or "I didn't understand you." So what we're trying to do ultimately from the highest levels is we're trying to reduce the amount of reverberation that is going around in the room. And so ultimately, if you're talking about in a theater space, you're trying to get it somewhere between 200 and 400 milliseconds. You're getting the sound impulse to decay 60 decibels roughly. In gyms, auditoriums, lots of business in gyms and auditoriums. If you look at auditoriums that have those pads on the wall, most people think that those pads are there on the wall to prevent kids from bashing their face in the wall. And really, while that it is partly that, it is mainly to reduce the amount of reverberation in the room and make it quieter. So in general, two things. I'm talking too long, but what I'll say is we're trying to create a room that is quiet and enjoyable. And the hardest thing, actually, small room acoustics, like doing the theater, is much harder than large room acoustics, particularly at the lower frequencies, because of room modes, those kind of things. But what we're really trying to do is we are trying to create that suspension of disbelief. And the hardest thing for us to do is to take inside of a room and make it seem like you're in outer space, that there are no walls. Or that you're in the middle of the field somewhere in Montana and there's no mountains around and there's nothing around and there's an explosion. And if there was an explosion and there's nothing for miles and miles, that explosion happens and then it's gone. And instead, what you have is you have it reverberate and get all boomy and all that. And that's not how it is supposed to be. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the environment to more realistic so that we can take an outdoor environment and sound outdoors, indoors, and vice versa.
So along that lines, Michael Slocum says, will there be a manual regarding the RP1? So for people to look and see what they should do or need to do to meet these specifications. I don't know if you guys can answer that.
Okay. So I can't speak on behalf of CDIA, and I'm a very bad standards participant. I actually, when I worked for CDIA, I started the standards group with the current senior director of standards, Walt Zerbe. And so now, shame on me, because they have their calls every time I have a call in France, so I don't make them. However, so I can't speak on behalf, but what I would think is the way that they write their standards these days is that it is going to be, these are the specs, and then this is why it's important. So this is how you understand it. So will there be a manual? I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I think that there will be enough information for the general layperson to understand what is being talked about. The RP 22, it's a very long document, 189 pages or something like that. I would expect that you will probably see RP1 roughly around the same size, but a lot of it is just explanatory on a certain topic. So you don't need to read all of it to understand it. So, I can't speak for the group at all. But I think that it is, for the meetings that I've been on, it's enough to kind of understand. A general layperson should be able to understand the principles that are being talked about.
But I think the RP22 is probably the more relevant document for someone designing a home theater.
Yeah, the RP1 will be to understand what you need to know for measurements for picking out speakers, as an example, or picking out projectors or theater screens or whatever.
Okay. So,
And just so you know, if you're a member of CDIA, if you're in the industry and you're a member of CDIA, you are allowed to participate in there. And so
okay.
you should be encouraged to participate. So if you're asking about this, I would reach out to Walt Serby, as long as you are in the industry and you're a member of CDIA or CTA, and ask about participating on the standards committee.
Good to know. So, I guess before we close out, I have a question because we have some very smart people here. So, I'm having an issue. I had some neighbors move in probably about 6 months ago, and it's a couple and their 90-year-old mother who's wearing a hearing aid. Well, twice the husband has come over and complained to me that my bass is basically like destroying their wall. I want to say that my house is about a little bit between 10 to 15 feet away, and it's the outer wall that's a problem. I have two windows, which I'm going to be doing some stuff with that. I'm going to be closing that off, but I have two windows. One is in the front of the room, the other one is the back of the room, and the side of their house, they have two windows that are almost adjacent to mine, not quite. Is there anything that I can do aside from ripping down that wall and just completely like redoing it? Because it's pretty annoying. I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, but I'm like, man, I told him, we had a conversation. I said, look, I want to be respectful of you and your family, but I do get products from companies. I said I do some YouTube stuff and I review products, and I got to test them. But yeah, he came over. I had some friends over on Sunday, and he came over on Monday. Again, that was the second time. So now I'm kind of like, I'm annoyed. He's annoyed, but I'm like, I don't know what there is that I can do, and I don't want to just neuter my system every time I'm watching something.
The answer is no.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I wish it were something else, but the only way to sound acoustic treatment is to make the sound better in the room.
Right.
Sound isolation is what you need to do, and that is a overall construction type of thing.
That's what I thought.
Now, I will say that I have tried building what's called a window plug, which is basically I took plywood, built plywood, filled it with mineral fiber.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Plywood on the other side, and then I took foam, like the expanding foam, and I put around it, and it did make some difference. The problem is it's probably not going to make a lot of difference at the lowest frequencies, because those frequencies are, the wavelength is, very, very long. So what is 20 hertz wavelength? 56.5 feet long.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, so, and I didn't know exactly what to do. So basically what I did is I have some, because I have some plywood, I was going to do that. So basically what I was going to do, I was going to put some acoustic insulation in the window, a layer of mass loaded vinyl, and then I got some quiet rock, sheetrock that I was going to put on the plywood. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to help. It's got to do something a little bit better, but I'm like,
quiet rock will help some.
Okay.
So the two principles for sound isolation are mass and decoupling.
Okay.
And so it is, but it has to be the entire. It has to be the entire structure. It has to be the entire structure, or else it's going to leak out. Sound is like water. It's going to find the weakest link and just go right out.
Well, that sucks.
I had many,
Yes.
many people email me about using acoustic treatments for their apartment when I was at Oralex, and it was just, I wish I could help you. It's just not how
apartments, you're
it
screwed.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what else, because I have friends and family that come over, and then I use my system personally, and then I also use my system when I'm testing stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell them other than, and
Just get used to it.
Yeah.
That's all you
Well,
can.
so what you can do is what I do, which is that if you've got a Trinnov, which we would love you to buy one, is that you create a night mode. So like during the day, you know what? Sorry, Charlie, this is how loud it's going to be. And then you create a night mode so that the
Yeah.
lowest of the frequencies aren't quite so loud and more tolerable for your neighbors. It's commendable that you're trying to be nice.
Yeah, and I mean, the first time he came over, he actually came over while I had my uncle and my cousin, and I saw him on my video doorbell, and I was like, "What is he?" It was like it wasn't too late. It was like 9:30. I was like, "What does he do? He never comes over here." And then he stood there for a few minutes, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "I think, can he hear this?" I guess it just never occurred to me, because the previous owners that lived there, they never said anything, so I never knew that it was bothering them. And then they moved out there was nobody living there for a few months. And so, like I said, we talked, and I told him, I was like, man, I want to be respectful, but I said there are going to be times when I am going to play it. And I want to say I went about 3 or 4 months where I didn't crank it because I didn't really have any new material to
Right.
test. But yeah, a couple nights ago, I had some friends over, and even then, I didn't crank it to where I usually do. And I'm guessing it's his mom that's complaining, because he actually told me, he's like, if it wasn't for my mom, she's 90, she wears hearing aids. He's like, if it wasn't for my mom, I would just take it, I would just eat it. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to be a jerk like that either.
Right.
But he was like, it's your house, you do what you want. But I'm like, well, it sounds like you're
Well-
asking me to just not use my system.
So again, though, so you think about 56 and a half feet long as the wavelength for 20 hertz. And so at 80 hertz, it's, what is it, Chuck? 14 and a half feet, something
Yes,
like
yeah,
that, somewhere around there.
14.
So it might be that you turn down from, like, say, 50 hertz and below in the evenings or
profile.
whatever,
Okay.
and lower that by 10, 20 dB and create kind of a night mode or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to talk to you guys some more. Pick your brain. Somebody had a question. They said, when are you implementing CEC into HDMI so my wife and kids don't need the Trinnov remote to change the volume? I never use that stuff. I hate CEC.
Yeah, I would not hold my breath on that.
Have you downloaded the Trinnov app? If you have an
There's
Apple
the
phone,
answer. That's the answer. Exactly.
I'm not being a homer on this. And when I say this, it's probably one of the top 2 or 3 apps I've ever used. Not because I'm a Trinnov employee, I swear. It's because it just worked every time, and it's really simple. That's the hard thing, is to take something complex and make it simple. And it's just basically a few options: volume up, down, mute, dim, those kind of things.
Sources, change sources.
CEC
You
is
can
garbage.
change the up mixer. It's basically what you need, but at this point, it's just iOS. We don't have the
Yeah,
Android
that's
yet.
what he said. He said
Yeah.
he uses Android, so no Android. My suggestion would be, and I don't know what his preferences or budget, but if you can find a good universal remote, I don't even like to use apps. I mean, I'll use an app sometimes with the Kaleidoscape or the Zedu sometimes if it's like something that's really, I just want to look and see. But I've been using a universal remote for years, and I can't really use anything other, anything else. Me personally, that's just what I like.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Hey, that's, you can't.
I get it. It's just
Yeah, I know.
CEC is very unreliable because CEC
Yeah, I
has
hate
to
it.
work for every single combination of product out there. It's just just so you know, the CEC really isn't inside the Trinnov ecosystem as much as, because you have the HDMI part of the board and the display, and so it's just not. There's too many parameters. So unfortunately, no.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially when wife and kids don't want to learn. But like you said, it's when I first started getting to home theater and I started learning, I found out about CEC. I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't have to, man. It didn't take me very long where I was like, man, this is unreliable and I hate this. I'm not using this anymore.
Yeah.
So I know some people like it, but I turn all that. As soon as I get anything that has, I turn that off.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I think that's everything. It was good chatting with you guys, Chuck, Tom, Dave. You guys have any closing comments that you want to let the audience know?
Well, me on my side, I would like to invite everyone that is interested in this kind of environment. We are open for business, so anyone that wants to experience anything like this, just simply contact us.
Where can they contact you at?
Either Tom or Monica at viphometheaters.com, and probably that's the easiest way to contact, or just go through our website, viphometheaters.com.
www.viphometheaters.com.
.com.
Okay,
Correct.
let me put that up here. I'll put that in the chat. All right, Dave.
Yeah, my parting gift is go check out Tom's place. It's
Yes,
amazing.
please, if you
It's really
can.
amazing,
That's awesome.
for sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
Did you
listen
guys
to
do?
Trinnov.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you guys do any other calibration after I was there, Tom and Dave? Because it sounded
Yes.
pretty impressive already. So.
Oh, believe me, you have to come in. It's so much better now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Dave used a lot of his skills, so I don't even want to go into what he did, but it was very impressive. So thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Chuck.
I'm looking forward to getting out to experience Tom's room at some point in
You're
the new
always
year.
welcome.
Sure.
Just
Thank
let
you.
us know when.
He'll wait until it's warm.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not keen to leave California for a couple months, but
Of course.
and I invite everyone to take a look at the Trinnov.com website, particularly if you're interested in waveforming. There's a wealth of material there to give you everything from the technical background, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and the tools that will help you design, implement, and calibrate a system. There's quite a bit of depth of the material across the website, so I encourage people to visit. And that's simply Trinnov.com.
Yep, I put it in the chat for everybody. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming on the channel. You guys, I know I've heard your products at CDI, at many places. Some of these home theater tours that I've gotten a chance to experience, and obviously at VIP Home Theaters, and you guys are doing some pretty awesome stuff. And yeah, so Ike says in the demo tracks, those things are awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we have some new ones dropping on the
Nice.
They're coming
on
soon.
Kaleidoscaping on the website as well. Benoit Munoz is our. I don't even know what his title is, but I'm just going to call him creative director. And man, does he do a good job.
Yeah. Those are awesome. Once I found out about those, I was like, oh, I got to start using these more. And I know I actually have some. Are those the same ones that you guys had at CDI? Because I know I have a flash drives with some ones that weren't there. Is that the same ones?
Those were just waiting. They're getting a little touched up. So they're not quite ready yet, but they will be. I'm really looking forward to the one with Jupiter. So
yeah, that one's cool.
It's fantastic.
And free is like the other ones, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we are.
So that's cool that you guys do that.
And available in the Kaleidoscape store.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in on this what is today?
Thursday.
Went Thursday. I almost lost track of my days here. On this Thursday, we appreciate you guys checking in and continuing to support the channel. Go check out Trinnov.com and VIPHometheaters.com. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'll be checking it later. And, if it's something I can't answer, I'll send it to one of these guys. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I guess we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Good
Happy
night.
New Year.
Happy New Year.